If you'd like to join the ranks of Patreons and sponsor the show, head over to patreon.com/Cellar Door Skeptics. For less than a 20-ounce soda or an energy drink each week, you can help sponsor us, the hosts, and our charity of choice. Patreon helps Cellar Door Skeptics create better content, become better activists, and it's going to help you stay healthier by drinking one less soda or one less energy drink each week. Click the link in the notes of the show to sponsor us today because we bring the discussion with the sources.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Walk with me through the cellar door.
A storm is coming, Francis.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Welcome to Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you all for joining us on episode 162. Tonight we have a very lively episode, I would say.
It might be.
It's a little bit lively. We're doing
Is it Blake?
Is it Blake?
Is it Blake Lively? Because that's pretty lively.
Who's that? I don't know who that is.
Ryan Reynolds' wife. She's like, I would say she's Hollywood's darling right now. She's an awesome actress. She was, I think she was one of the women in Gone Girl.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah. Anyways,
so I don't know.
Pun, deaf kid, stupid pun.
Way to start the show off,
Yes, continue with the show after now my terrible dad joke is over. We will move on like nothing bad has happened here.
So if you're tuning in and you're anywhere in the Midwest right now, you probably have snow. We are on day 2 here in Michigan of pretty much like lockdown. Now, Hannah's pretty gutsy. He doesn't care. He's okay if he freezes to death as a popsicle on the side of the road.
It's meat popsicles, sir.
Meat popsicles. But it's pretty bloody cold here. They're shutting everything down all across. My kids have had 2 days off of school. It was funny, Sunday night. This is the weirdest thing. Sunday night, 7 o'clock, I get a text from the school. Yep, school's closed. I was like, oh, that's early. We almost never get that. Monday, they have off. Monday night, I'm sitting there going, are they going to have off Tuesday? Are they going to have off Tuesday? Are they going to have off Tuesday? Oh, no text, midnight, nothing. Go to bed. Get up at 5:30, because I want to know, because if the kids don't have school, okay, hey, no problem. I just need to know that, right? Because my wife and I have to work it out who's going to go to work, who's going to stay home. It's a cluster, right? And
yeah,
no text at 5:30, so we're like, screw it, the kids are going to school. Go back to sleep. About 6:30, I can hear Simpsons playing in my living room. I'm like, damn it, who's watching TV at 6:30? Get up. James, what are you doing? Oh, we don't have school.
So yes, they get up. This is so weird. I don't understand. When I was younger, man, if they told me school was canceled, I was back to bed, man.
Not my teenagers. Both my teenagers claim they can't fall back asleep once they get up. And in fairness, he didn't know it was going to be, school was going to be off, right? So he set his alarm. He was doing his due diligence to make sure he got up in time to go to school and get ready and shower and all the stuff he has to do. So, kudos to him for getting up on time. But instead of going back to bed, he, turned the TV on. And then I was like, oh, well, that sucks. He's like, yeah, I got up and I didn't realize we didn't have school for a few minutes. And then finally I looked at my phone and got a text too. And I was like, oh, all right. So then the text that came through, though, was not just for Tuesday off. It was for Wednesday, too. They went ahead and just, pre-did it. They're like, oh, sorry, we made a mistake, guys. We're going to give you Wednesday off, too.
You know what they did? They probably went back and said, well, we didn't have any snow days in the fall or the winter, so we got to double up on this stuff to make sure
we're over. Tomorrow is, either today or tomorrow is our over. We're already going to be a day or two over minimum.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't think the weather was that bad so far this year. So, yeah, I don't have any kids that are old enough, and I don't live that far away from work, and I live in the city of Kentwood, which taxes me into oblivion, but has a really strong and robust socialist snowplow program. So I always just go to work. I don't know.
Yeah. The other highlight I had today, right, is I don't know if this is true or not, right? I only know is somebody posted this, and I did not do any research. I'm a bad skeptic in that.
Are we about to get emails from people who are yelling at us for being wrong?
I'm going to wager no. I guess Donald Trump tweeted, in the beautiful Midwest, wind chill temperatures are reaching minus 60 degrees and the coldest ever reported. In coming days, expected to get even colder. People can't last outside even minutes. What the hell is going on with global warming? Please come back fast. We need you. So here you go, though. The best response I saw so far, and again, I did not go on his Twitter and look through the responses. This is just somebody shared a screenshot. The best response that I have, and I don't care if this is real or not, this is the best response, period. Climate change explained for Trump. Warming oceans cause colder climates. It's like having a Russian prostitute or two pee in your bed. Even though the pee is warm when it hits your face, as it cools, it makes the bed colder and wet. Do you understand now? And I'm sorry, like that's the highlight. Man. That was the highlight of the climate change jokes. And we're gonna do a climate change segment here. I've started the research. I'm building the document. It's going to be a very full-fledged on, it might even be like 7 blog articles by the time I'm done. But,
we're definitely going to get into stuff like the reason the polar vortexes come through, the reason the super cold stuff comes through, like what we've got right now and stuff. So I'm excited. It'll be fun.
Yeah. And so, it's just kind of funny because there's a lot of climate change deniers out there. And I didn't really know it extended past the GOP party, but it does. It does quite a bit. And it's funny to make fun of it, I guess.
There's a lot of that corporate stuff in there too. So like, there's a lot of corporate people on the progressive side they are really just protecting that dollar bill. I mean, guys like Jeff Bezos, they own the Washington Post, so he's leaning left there. But he was one of the number one donors for the GOP last year, so he's obviously protecting his corporate stance there. So I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's going to be going all over. So like, we'll probably touch a little bit onto the politics side. We'll touch a little bit on the actual weather side, but also we'll have to touch a little bit on the evidence that this is human influenced as opposed to just naturally occurring due to the Earth's I guess climate cycles that we run into with things that move around, like our magnetic poles and everything else that moves underneath due to our liquid core and solid iron core and liquid magma and all that kind of stuff going on. So I don't know. We'll see how deep we can get into this and see how much we can, I guess, get it into a nice layperson's conversation so we can bounce ideas off each other.
Yes, exactly. But that's not the topics of this episode. I'm going to begin the episode out by talking about our charity, right? I have a different intro segment planned, but I thought this one was a little bit more important in terms of a charity. So this past weekend was International Holocaust Remembrance Day.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, I did not know this. Now, Hannah, maybe you're with your background, you might be a little bit more up on this. But I'll be honest, I'm ashamed to know I didn't know this.
I get shares from my Jewish family that's still in the Detroit area. They share this stuff every year.
So and I think it's important. I like the aspect of we need to keep this in front of us, especially in this climate. When I have people telling me we can't punch Nazis, I kind of go back to, but do you understand what a Nazi represents and what they did? Do you understand they killed 6 million or more people? And the nice thing about Holocaust Remembrance Day is not that they don't just focus on the Jewish heritage. They also talk about, weirdly enough, Seventh-day Adventists. And I did not know that they were persecuted heavily.
Any outgroup. So gypsies, minorities, unregistered peoples,
gay people,
expatriates, people with mental illness, just about everybody. But the ruling white class. I mean, it's not that's one of the reasons why Nazism is so loved and lauded by white nationalists, because everything they like, it definitely crosses over. Like, they may not like the idea in some cases of the idea of genocide or whatever, and they want to be separationist as opposed to killing everyone that they don't like, but all of the philosophical points of view and where they are, they kind of cross over.
Yeah. So for this week's charity, I picked Holocaust Memorial Center, Ziegelman Family Campus in Farmington Hills, Michigan. And the reason I picked this one is because you can actually, it does a couple of things, right? You can actually go and see different exhibits, and we can get into the exhibits in a minute if we want. But essentially, it's like a museum to help you remember people were murdered by the millions. And it's kind of funny because, we had this conversation about, monuments in the South, right? And it's like, yeah, you don't need a monument in Tenement Square. You just take that monument, put it in a museum. I don't even care if you have a full museum full of monuments to Confederate flag people, right? I would probably go see that just for the history. I don't need it in front of me. And it's kind of the same thing. If there was somebody that was a Nazi sympathizer and their names plastered all over the place, we should remove that. I'm sorry. Like, they were a Nazi sympathizer. I don't care what they did for us. They still wanted, domination for white people, right?
That's a weird thing that I feel every time I see the word Ford on a vehicle.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, some of his anti-Semitism was like, ooh, really? So, like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that would be really good to have, and they have it at these kinds of locations. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to the Holocaust Memorial Museum in D.C., but that is one of them. I mean, that was a life-changing experience for me, because it isn't just the exhibits. Like, this place has got exhibits and it has some stuff, and the one in D.C. has actual shoes. It has the actual shoe piles that were taken, and and has the clothes, and it has pictures from the human experiments, and so, like, you can go to the one in DC, it's like the big money, big bucks, but this is a nice local thing that's still reminding people, and it's doing it on a local budget, kind of. I mean, these people are here to help everyone remember what's going on, and then they also support the Jewish communities. I mean, I'm assuming.
Yes, they do. They support a lot of the different local communities. They donate quite a bit of their time and money. You can become part of their council if you want. They have tons and tons of different ways to get involved. And the nice thing is right, it's a museum, so they have rotating exhibits. Like this at this current time, they have their core exhibits. They have feature exhibits, that come and go. So, for example, the core exhibits is a timeline, Jewish heritage, descent into Nazism, post-war periods.
It'd be like the permanent collection when you go to an art museum.
Yes. And then, the featured exhibits kind of rotate, right? So they're this month they're doing Jehovah's Witnesses under fire. Which, again, we don't agree with Jehovah's Witnesses, but in fairness, they shouldn't be burned in concentration camps. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I don't hate almost anybody that much except for Nazis. Like, Nazis are the only people I think that should be punched at least at minimum.
Any of those groups that are willing to resort to any kind of like mass murder, they get that kind of hate. So, I'm curious. I don't know. I didn't see anything when I was flipping through. Does it say anything about like allowing secular groups or anything like that to get into this? Because I kind of curious if the support in this, and with that last name Ziegelman, it sounds very very Jewish heritage. I was just curious if there's if you saw anything on here where like people in the non-believer community or something are involved, because we went to that one Jewish temple. It was a Jewish atheist temple or a secular humanist or a humanist temple, but it was the way they practiced their organization was kind of based on the Jewish diaspora. So I was curious, did you see anything on there?
I'll be honest, I don't know. I didn't know. I did not.
It looks
very neutral.
It looks really inclusive.
Yeah, how about this? They do not have anything in there that says, we represent the Jewish community specifically. They do talk about religious education, how hatred and violence has hindered that. On that, I wasn't super excited by that. But again, I don't know, because again, when you look at the Jewish culture, a lot of that culture is fairly secular to some extent. There's not a lot of,
at least in the U.S.
Ultra Orthodox Jewish minorities inside of Michigan. In fairness, it's just not.
Yeah, they're more concentrated in the New York area, stuff like that, when you hear some of those weird circumcision stories. But this group seems to be kind of, existing comfortably and peacefully and just trying to educate people on what happened and try not to lose that, because we look at how the U.S. is losing its memory of what happened during the Civil War and people basically committing the same kinds of ridiculous arguments towards minorities, gays, lesbians, minorities as far as race and where they're from and borders and all that kind of stuff. We're making the same mistakes again, and these groups want to make sure we don't make the same racial arguments when it comes to forgetting what happened when you basically try to scapegoat onto an entire religion, and because it's hard to separate the race and religion from the Jewish community, but it's this is a really cool thing that we're getting some more information out there to try to keep people educated on it. And so I definitely support what they're doing here, because I grew up with it. So like the Holocaust thing isn't something that is like, oh, well, I didn't really know about it. Like my family talked about this. Like we talked about what happened. And so I don't think some families really do. Like they'll be like, oh, the Holocaust is the thing, but that's about as deep as it goes in a household. And so like this group can help people educate their kids a little more and themselves.
Yeah, I think so. And I like it. So you can donate to them if you would like. You can buy memberships for other people, or if you just want to go visit, you're welcome to go visit. They have tours that go through there all the time.
And if you talk to them, tell them we talked about them. Maybe they'll come talk to us.
There you go. So as we continue through the show, I guess this is going to be a little selfish on my behalf, right? So the next segment, I kind of wanted to talk about a couple of Facebook posts that happened. One of them I won't share the link to, only because it's a family member. But essentially, I'll share the link that they shared. So they shared a awful link. And I'll go ahead and I'll actually share that link inside of the conversation, right? So there is something that happened in New York, where New York legalized late-term abortions, right? And the problem I have is whenever anybody says, well, this is exactly what happened, blah, 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 I can't believe they're murdering babies, you go, well, hold on a second, folks. Let's actually look at and talk through what the article says, right? And I'll be honest with you, when I saw the headline, I was a little shocked. The first thing I had to do was do research, though. And this is what drives me nuts about the culture nowadays, is people click a link, they'll read a few minutes, and then they move on, right?
Or
their headline.
If they even click on it. Like, they just share the headline. Yeah.
And so I had a family member share an article from CBN. and most of you probably have never heard of CBN, but is basically the Christian Broadcast Network, which you should immediately go, nope. Thank you anyway. But they had an article called "A Sad and Evil Day. New York legalizes abortion up to the baby's birthday on the anniversary of Roe versus Wade." And they have a nice little picture of this baby in parents' hands, which you could tell is obviously not a baby that just came out of the the womb. You could tell that. You could tell this baby's been cleaned up. It's probably at least 5 days old is my guess, if not a little older. It's a big baby. But we sit here and we go, well, there's an emotional argument. But I had a family member share this, and that kind of made me go, okay, hold on a second.
What are they saying?
Yeah, what are they saying? Did this really happen? And we're not here to get into whether late-term abortion should or shouldn't happen. That's not for Hannah and I to have the conversation about. The idea behind this is to debunk the article a little bit, right? To express my displeasure with fake news, which is what this is.
And what really did happen.
Well, what happened is this article sparked a lot of other people. So weirdly enough, Facebook groups, people that share the same article together, your friends. So like if you and I, Hannah, were to share an article about how much we love, I don't know, Deftones. It could link it together if somebody was Facebook friends with both of us. So I got all of a sudden this page of not notifications, but pages of like all these people sharing the exact same articles. Because again, I don't maintain a Facebook where you can't be a Christian to be on my Facebook. I don't care.
Yeah, if a bunch of your friends do it, it'll show the article and then it'll show each person's comment under it if they shared it, or it'll just say that they shared it. This happens pretty regularly on my wall as well. There'll be some posts in like 3 or 4 of the top people who shared it.
And so what happened is because that it showed up in a block, I actually caught. Normally, if somebody would post something, I browsed through things fast enough I wouldn't have caught it. Well, I did catch it. And of course, what does Facebook algorithms do is it presents you with more garbage if you click on one garbage link.
Oh, that's the worst.
It is.
That's the worst.
Like,
I hate that.
I should know better than to just Google that article, but I didn't. I clicked on it, I read it, and then Facebook recommended other articles. So there's a second article, which I ended up getting in a debate with the author of the actual article on his Facebook page, over it. And we'll get to his article too. But the idea is that, you could go in to a doctor now in New York, and essentially the article makes it sound like they're getting rid of restrictions on any procedure after 24 weeks. Therefore, you can go in and you can have a baby sucked out of you one day before it's born. That's literally what the article talks about. And I'm sitting here going, there's no way that America is that progressive. I'm sorry. That's a very progressive argument that women should be able to abort a baby up until the day it's born. And again, we're not here to debate whether you and I agree with that or not. The idea, though, is we have to at least acknowledge that is a very fringe viewpoint that's not shared by the majority of the public, right?
Or even the minority of people in office. I've never heard of a politician who would support that. That's career suicide. If you said you would support that, that is just like a Republican coming out and saying that he thinks that young men should be able to marry, like men should be able to marry prepubescent boys. That would be like the same kind of thing. There's no way you're ever going to get elected anywhere ever.
I would disagree. I would not correlate the two. But yes, I get.
No, what I'm saying is that's such an extreme, crazy view that there was no way that the family values of that party would do it. And it's the same thing with the Democratic Party. Even the majority or the minority of the Democrats would never support something that extraneous. I mean, they just wouldn't.
So anyway, the article essentially goes into all this detail, talks about, how every individual who becomes pregnant has the fundamental right to choose to carry the pregnancy to term, to give birth to the child, or have an abortion. And that's correct. If you actually click on the verbiage of the bill, it does two things. One, it essentially allows for healthcare physicians to take care of you after 24 weeks based on their professional recommendation. There's 2 reasons that you can have an abortion after 24 weeks in New York. The first reason is the baby is no longer viable, or the fetus is no longer viable, right? That's the first reason.
They find some genetic malformation or something where it's like this child will live for 15 minutes outside the womb or whatever.
Therefore, it's technically, specifically not actually an abortion. That's how they're classifying this. The other reason is if it has a risk to the woman's health. Now, we'll get into a second how the second article that I reference claims that the health can be redefined and can basically be anything the woman doesn't want. That's literally what the second article said, which is ridiculous. It's such a slippery slope. I almost just wanted to vomit on the article and then walk away from it. But I felt obligated to continue the conversation for at least 3 days, and then I gave up. But so anyway, back to the first article. So, if you read the bill specifically states all those different things. The bill also then basically turned around and said it declassified abortion as murder. which is very important. The funny thing is every one of these effing pro-life garbage websites and every one of these pro-life garbage individuals, they missed that point. How did you miss that point? You're focusing on the fact that women can have an abortion over 24 weeks, but you miss the fact that they are declassifying it as murder. You would think pro-life people would be a lot more obsessed with that side of the argument than the other. It boggles my mind because, again, my family members shared this and they're like, oh, this can happen. It's like, did you miss the part where they're not going to get tried and go to trial for this? Like, how are you missing that?
I think the timeline, like the scheduling, basically saying after a certain period of time, I really think that hits more emotionally than just like the classification. I think this is a marketing decision that like they probably put like focus groups in charge of. It's like what is more important to you, or what sounds more alarming to you, that you're allowed to have an abortion after 24 weeks, or that they classify abortion as murder. And like, I mean, apparently there's a difference, because why would they not even remotely pay attention to another one? Because I mean, there are people, the Christian Broadcast Nation, like these are what was it? Is it Christian Broadcast
Network?
That's what it was. They have to have marketing people who are in charge of creating, their Google AdWords and everything that they set up on this. Like they had to have thought about that and said, we're going to run on the date and the timeline and the fact that they can do it at any point, and we're going to say that that's more important. Because why would they not cover the fact that it's been declassified for murder? Like that murder is such an intense word. Wouldn't that bring out an emotional reaction? But they apparently went with the fact that you can do it at any point, which elicits more of a, I guess, an emotional response.
I guess I was confused by it, and I'm excited they actually, declassified it, right?
Well, yeah, I can't believe it's still classified today. I mean,
to me, that's the most important a part of this conversation, really, right? Is that, but again, that's the logic of the anti-choice movement, I guess. It's just they don't seem to care to conceptualize what could be happening.
It's binary in all reality. Like it's all evil. There's no gray area. Like if a mother was about to die from giving birth, I don't think that they quantify that same way.
They don't. That's the funny thing is
it's binary. The child is either the most important thing in the world or isn't at all. Like they can't have some kind of gray area where the mom's life can be more important than the child's life. They had to make a decision, and they chose the child, and they have to stick with it. That just, you know what I mean? Like once you make a decision where you absolutely lock yourself in, and then that's a tough decision. So that's where they are.
Yeah, which again, that's weird to me. And I had that was the argument I used, is if you're going to use an emotional argument, the first argument is like, hey, okay, if you were on the operating table, right, and they're like, hey, by the way, you're going to die if you give birth to this child. You have an 80% possibility. Do you want to take that risk? That woman should absolutely have that choice every single time.
Yes.
I don't care what anybody says.
15, even if it's 15 minutes from the due date
exactly.
Whatever. Yeah, the woman's choice is the most important thing.
Yeah. And so, anyway, so I pointed that out, and then, the comment back, the only comment back I got from some of the family was, well, do you understand this, and this about, that could they take the health issue out of whack? Could they just randomly make that decision? And I said, but again, if we're going to use emotional arguments, the first emotional argument is, do you honestly think a doctor, somebody that spent $100,000 on schooling or more, is going to go, the woman, she just looks distraught, therefore abortion for you? They don't do that. Like that's so befuddling to me. I don't even I don't actually have a way of genuinely taking that seriously. I just don't. I look at that and I go, it's like somebody saying the world, it's flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Have you ever been in an airplane?
I guess the only place I could see is like if someone saw a doctor, and like let's say a doctor was like an intense activist, pro-choice activist, just super, super, super intent on giving people the choice, whatever like that. They could say like, well, the doctor obviously has a bias towards this, but one of the things they teach you in the medical profession is, that you're supposed to act without bias. It's the whole idea of the judiciary. When like you become a judge, you're supposed to separate your perspectives and your bias, and you're supposed to look at what the law says, and you're supposed to interpret the context of the law and the way it was originally written. The same thing is supposed to happen with doctors, and they're supposed to be able to look at what the situation is and remove their personal emotions from the situation and make a decision based on the science and based on what the best possible outcome that they believe either something that they can do or that other doctors can do to, I guess, to give the people the best chance of survival, the best care they can give. And that's really what it is. And so like they're basically saying that the doctors who have some kind of a liberal bias towards this are not trustworthy, and they're gonna act in their like in some kind of egregious manner where they're gonna be like, you should get an abortion because it looks like the kid's got a little bit of a problem. You should just totally cancel it and just start all over again. Like they're projecting, that is kind of a slippery slope, or at least an emotional argument there. Then there's a problem with that. I don't surmise that doctors are that one way or the other. We do know that the intelligentsia throughout this country has more of a leaning towards pro-choice and liberal education when it comes to those kinds of things. That's just something that we see when we analyze the voting records. But I really think that I'm not an optimist. Or I'm not a utopian on that. I do think that it leans a little bit, but I don't think doctors are going to be that intense. I don't think they're going to try to overstep their bounds and try to force patients to make the decisions. They're going to do their best they can to educate them, and hopefully they make the right ones. But I don't think it's as intense and cognitively biased as what some of these people think the pro-choice people and pro-choice doctors would be if they're in the medical profession. I think they're more trustworthy than that.
Exactly. Now, if we move on to the next article by, I even hate just saying his name, is Callum Miller. He's a Christian philosopher that decided he wanted to write about why New York's abortion birth law is as extreme as it sounds. Now, I got in a debate on his Facebook page over this, and essentially because I'm not going to share his blog. It will be in the description. You can look it up. You can look up the conversation. You can see everything I said, and then you can kind of see where I gave up finally. But essentially, his article is nothing but a slippery slope and fear mongering. And I'm going to just be extremely fucking blunt here, and maybe we just turn explicit tag on it.
Yeah, you might as well.
I've done this for the last 3 or 4 episodes. Not only is this topic something I feel men should shut the fuck up about at some point, right? I'm sick of seeing privileged white men, especially ones that feel they're fucking philosophers, try and explain this. So what he did essentially is he took a bunch of articles, talked about what America thinks abortion should be legal or not. Blah blah blah. He tries to then compare it to the UK, where he feels UK is more conservative in this aspect, and to him is correct.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, anyway.
I know. Yeah.
So
go ahead.
I don't even care about those statistics at all. I feel that is nothing but filler and garbage, because I don't feel that all he's doing is saying, well, look at other societies. We should be closer to what they are. And I'm like, no, that has nothing to do with that, right? You're just taking that out of context. The caveat which started my decision to have the conversation with him and his followers, and by the way, I didn't use anti-choice once, weirdly enough, in an effort to not isolate them, is he said a baby, or I'm going to retitle it, a fetus, can survive outside of the womb after 22 weeks, right? That's not a fact. That does happen. No. Yes. Does it happen every time? No. How much does it cost to make that happen? How is the impact of the actual child's life once it's been born? So he doesn't get into any of that. All he does is just drop this little tidbit and then says, therefore, New York's evil. right? And he's making all these claims. And then he goes on to basically explain how he says third trimester abortions, when the woman's life is at risk, is not exactly how that law is intended. He says it's straightforward false. He says, let's look at the law. It allows for abortion if the patient is within 24 weeks from the commencement of pregnancy, which is true. That's exactly what the law says. Or if there is an absence of fetal vitality or the abortion is necessary to protect the patient's life or health. He says, but here, let's look at what health means. And he takes a I don't maybe it's not 1970, but I think it was like a 70 decision by Doe versus Bolton, which clarifies what health is, and he claims that it's not just a serious threat to physical health or life, but other factors such as emotional, psychological, and age. Okay, well
all those things are still going to be harmed on the woman. Yeah.
Exactly. And he says it seems silly because it could be associated with worsened mental health, and it can drastically increase a woman's mortality risk. In the law, abortion improves health by none. Right? I don't like the concept of how he's going about this is illogical,
well,
right?
He's basically saying that if you have an abortion, there is no physical benefit. Even if the baby is going to harm you in the end. Like, he's saying that literally there is no positive benefit. If the baby would kill you and you had an abortion, you have not gained anything.
No, I disagree with you. What he's saying is the term health is so flexible, you can use it for whatever you want. That is a slippery slope argument without facts. Oh, and by the way, you want to know where the facts lie? The facts don't lie where it tells you exactly how many women willy-nilly, and I don't know how else to say it, have an abortion after 24 weeks because they feel like it. It's inconceivable that he can even make that correlation. Now, if you actually do the research, right? So I found a CDC article where they actually analyze how many abortions happen and how many happen. Guess how many abortions happen in the third trimester, which they define not at 24 weeks, but at 21 weeks.
I'm going to guess an absolutely ridiculously small number.
1.3%.
Yeah.
So now his
thousands.
argument, his new argument is, well, we should still be rallying for those lives. And he says this because he goes, well, technically that's over 8,000 abortions that happened that year that were in the third trimester. That's not a small number. You want to bitch about gun safety and blah, 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 which I don't know how he knows anything about me because he's never once commented or listened to our show.
He's going to make assumptions on your politics.
Yes, he does. Exactly. And, and so he uses that, and he basically essentially is saying that this slippery slope argument of health, everybody's going to use it. Now, there is zero history that shows this, period. It does not happen. There is actually very little research because all of this research is actually privatized, right? It's not something that's just public knowledge. So the research that we have, they actually did, there was a doctor that actually did research. There was another study that was done by a scientific research committee that actually looks at how many, what women gave as reasons for having abortions before the third trimester and after the third trimester, right? Okay. They actually talk about it. And there's lots of other reasons. Now, in fairness, birth defects is not the top one. He is correct. He is correct about that. The difference, though, is that the idea behind this and this idea that women just have willy-nilly abortions after 24 weeks is not substantiated. So you're creating an environment. If you want to be able to state that, go do the research. Find where you can prove it. It's kind of like, and this is where I got angry, it's kind of like you saying God exists, but you can't definitively scientifically prove it. You can prove it through philosophy. That's it, though. And that's your opinion. And philosophy is open to interpretation. So you're just using a bullshit way to understand society and applying it to real world facts. And I'm sorry, but that's what angers me is that philosophers shut the fuck up. That's what I say. right? Just shut the fuck up. If you want to talk about, whether it's morally reprehensible, you should be a lot more fucking educated than what you are. All you're doing is trying to take some philosophy teachings and trying to apply it to society at large. It doesn't work like that. It's not like Socrates is 100% correct and you can apply it to everything we're going through. The only thing that really applies to anything is evolution and adaptation to some extent. And I'm sure they don't even believe in that.
Yeah. Well, just not even diving into the philosophy, getting too far into this, like, one, we know for certain, just from the evidence that was provided that you have of essentially their out interviews, just the reasons for the abortions and things like that. Like, we know that this isn't something that you do when it's just like, oh man, I've just decided I don't want to do this. Like, this is a really tough decision. A lot of cases early on, maybe in that, but later on, the late term stuff, like, you've got a child in you can feel it, it's moving around, it's been there a while. This isn't something that just snuck up on you and appeared out of nowhere. Like, those decisions to have late term abortions are usually very serious, very thoughtfully gone through, and this isn't something that people do on an impulse. This isn't reckless decision making. This is something that needed to be done in a lot of cases, very regretfully so. And so, like, it just attacking those women who've made probably what will be the toughest decision of their entire lives, and they will never forget the decision they made, and this will affect them for the rest of their lives. Like, attacking those women, I don't think that's the right place for some guy to be doing. Like, I agree with you on that one. This is a conversation that men and women should have, but women should have to take the forefront. So this guy, he's probably speaking a little bit out of turn, but when a lot of this sounds like cherry picking to me. One of the things he's loving to talk about, he says, look at the numbers in the UK. Really? You want to pull the UK numbers out of this? You want to talk about conservatism happening in the UK? Okay. Well, you love what they think. You love their perspective. You know what else they love? They love their socialized medicine. They love their national healthcare system. Do you like that? Or are you just cherry picking part of their society that you like, and saying that you like what decision that they've made here, but you're going to completely and totally say this is a terrible idea when it comes to socialized medicine and social welfare and all that kind of stuff. So, like, those kinds of things, it's awesome to say that they've made a great decision, but are you going to say that everything they've ever done is great, or is there some gray area there? The cherry picking is an important thing to have here. So you could talk about what happens in Scandinavia in there too. Like,
dude, it's not even. It's just their opinion. It's not actually. He's not even looking at the laws.
I know. Oh, I know.
At first, it was just the opinion of the people.
Yeah, and I would say that the British perspective on abortion, This would be a genuine surprise to me if they were not more liberal than the United States. Like, when they talk about, like, being conservative and religious, the United States is held up in a lot of these European and Northern Scandinavian countries. They look at the U.S. like they look at India, like they look at China, like they look at most of the Arabic world. Like, when you look at some of these, like, those guys have really strong ideas. We're kind of in the middle. We can fight about stuff. But, like, Europe looks at us now, and other countries look at the United States almost as extremist nations. I mean, that's how intense it's gotten. So, like, the idea of the UK being like this conservative haven is it's kind of laughable. It's kind of laughable. And so I wouldn't hold them up as being the thing. But, like, what we've got in this case here is the law itself says that this is not something you can do on an impulse. There needs to be some seriousness in there. And the whole point of this law is the codification of, the support of abortion in the state of New York, hopefully surmising or estimating that Roe v. Wade would be overturned at some point. So this law is codified into the state of New York so that they have a basis to fight against the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
Yes.
and the later one. That's one of the most important things here. So, like, I don't want that to get lost in the conversation of the fight between whether or not it's a good or a bad thing. Like, this is to protect women who have some reason late in their pregnancy to have an abortion, and it is to provide another bump to try to protect Roe v. Wade. And this is it's a liberal state, so, like, this is a strategic move, and that conservative naturally would not like.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, as we wrap this up, right, is I posted an article for him from a Dr. Jennifer Gutner, who actually performs abortions. She's, an OBGYN. That's what she does for a living. She says this. She says there are no 9-month abortions. Really, a 9-month abortion is a unicorn and so ridiculous to even discuss it. Terminations after 24 weeks are for severe fetal anomalies. If it is a unicorn, why would we legislate it, right? Introducing an age limit is introducing a thin edge. Once you say abortion is illegal at 37 weeks, then you have agreed the subject is up for negotiation. If someone is truly interested in reducing abortion, they wouldn't start with 1.3% of abortions, right? They're going to look at first-term abortions, which make up over 60% of them. And guess what? The reason most of those is because of unplanned pregnancies. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Thank you all for sticking with Cellular Skeptics. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the wall. Considering how you want to help Cellar Door Skeptics, head over to iTunes or your favorite podcast app and give us a rating, because every rating helps push us in front of new listeners. And since our main goal here at Cellar Door Skeptics is to provide the most accurate information possible, we hope that more ratings will mean that more people get to hear the topics that we're presenting. We don't insist that we get a 5-star rating, but Hannah's favorite number is 5, and the more gold stars he gets, the more special he's gonna feel. So what do you say? Head on over to iTunes or Google Play, give us a rating, and help engage with Cellar Door Skeptics today. Welcome back to Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you all for sticking around with us. Yeah, it got a little passionate back there. We dropped the F-bomb a little bit. I don't know.
You did.
I did.
You did.
Yeah,
you did.
I know it's really hard to lay off the follow language, especially because we're not on like iHeartRadio or anything. We're not big enough to be on iHeartRadio, so I like the swear words. So I don't know.
Sometimes you gotta let it loose. Sometimes you just gotta shoot it. I don't know. I find that I find I do this way more in person, like in real life. I'll swear more, but I try to concentrate on the conversation. But sometimes you really do need to talk about that kind of things. Like one of the things that I've seen in music over the years, I've seen people that they swear in their music, and then they decide, you know what, I'm going to stop swearing and see if my music is just as intense if I try to use other more descriptive words. And then they go back to it later on in their career, and they're like, you know what, it works, and it's not as offensive thing, and it's a useful tool for showing my emotional state. And so like if that's what you want to if that's what the color of the stuff that's inside you, then just rock and roll with it. I mean, nobody's going to critique you for that.
Well, you know it is, baby. You know it is. So I don't know. So for the latter part of the show, we actually Hannah put together a very thorough, in-depth document called "Democrats Want Open Borders and Hate Walls, or Do They?" And I think that's an interesting discussion that we need to have, because that's the one of the most obvious recent arguments against Democrats stalling Trump and his wall has been, well, they've voted for him before. They've done this before. What's wrong with them now? They're just doing it to oppose Trump.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. It's this post and this blog and everything was just basically grew out of me being tired of explaining to people that Democrats voted for border security in the past as comprehensive immigration reform bills. And it's like there were the Defense Act that Bush passed. That was a very simple, very specific bill that didn't have a whole lot of stuff in it. It was a strategic decision. We'll get to that in a minute. But basically, everyone was saying like Democrats voted for walls. Bernie Sanders voted for a wall and for border security, and I was like, okay, he did. Is that a problem? And they're like, well, it just shows that Democrats are only not voting for Trump's wall because it's Trump, not because they no longer agree with these policies. And I said, oh yeah, well, let me go read about it. And it's like I read about some of these bills, and I basically just told these, no, you're wrong. Mostly because a lot of the stuff that you want was in these bills, but Republicans wouldn't sign it because Obama. It's like it's kind of a flip-flopped argument here. So like I found 4 bills that were kind of tied up into things. The first one was in 2005, and then everything is kind of concentrated since then because they're the most recent ones. But the first one in 2005 was House Bill for Republicans 4437, and this was the Border Protection, Anti-Terrorism, and Illegal Immigration Control Act 2005. And this thing, I didn't even include it entirely in the besides just its name, and I just said you go look it up because it is kind of like what the Tea Party or the Freedom Coalition would put up. Like it's just really bad. It's really it's aggressively outside the norm and in really far right. It was never even remotely going to be passed, but it was there was a Republican House at that point, and so like these were like people trying to drum up support from their constituents, and so like that was just yuck. So in 2006 was the first one, and this was from the Senate Bill 2611, and we've included some of the links in here, and I've also included some of the people who voted for it. So the Comprehensive Immigration Reform Act of 2006, Schumer, Biden, Clinton, Obama all voted for that. Bernie Sanders didn't come in until 2007, so he wasn't included in this one. So this is one of the bipartisan ones that the Democrats voted a lot for, and the reason it was because of the Republican control in the House and the presidency. And so like this is the kind of thing that I wanted to put forth out here to just kind of talk a little bit about, because my assumption is that, Chris, I didn't know anything about these bills or any of this kind of stuff. I just knew that Democrats had voted for border security in the past. Like, is this some of this stuff new and some of the things in here new to you, or is this something that you knew about that you just didn't want to Yoda sensei me and educate me in the past?
So I'll be honest, I never read any of the bills. Did I know the Democrats had voted for them? Yes. This actually was a discussion I had with Jeremiah Bannister on and off back, I think 2.5 years ago when Trump was running. And because again, Hillary Clinton is not my ideal Democrat.
No, she's a centrist.
Yes. And there was a lot of argument saying, why are you voting for a centrist? You should at least be voting your conscience. You should at least be voting. They claim my conscience was Jill Stein, which, in fairness, Jill Stein progressively economically fits where I fit. I just don't think, A, she has the experience compared to Hillary. B, I don't think an outrageously progressive individual she's just not enough of a skeptic for me. I mean, at least with Hillary, she's like, yeah, there's money in it. What do you want me to do? I mean, at least there's the honesty to some extent. In fairness to Jill,
voting.
Yeah, in fairness to Jill, she was very anti-war. That's a big stance for me. She is very pro human rights. But the problem I had is just where her policies were going, the money she wanted to spend, and the inability to articulate how her plan is going to help everybody. That's just kind of where I fell down. Like, now you take nowadays and you compare her to like an Elizabeth Warren, and even though Elizabeth Warren is more conservative than my positions, and she's pretty progressive, but she's a lot more conservative than I am, I can relate to that and think that she would be a better candidate even if she's more conservative than I am. The Hillary thing is there's zero reason to ever have a Donald Trump in the office. There was no reason for this, and we could have prevented all of this if people had just shown up and vote.
Yeah, so there was definitely a lot of strategy involved in these decisions, and that's something that's really important in these past votes. The strategy of what was going on. So in 2006, there was Republican president, obviously, George Bush, W. Bush, and then there was John Boehner's House, and he was in charge of just being the House guy. And so they had the growth of the Tea Party. Ted Cruz was fresh on the scene, being a nasty little thing that he is. Get that Gollum action going on. And so this Comprehensive Immigration Reform Act of 2006. This is a big deal because it's comprehensive. This thing had a lot of votes. And so the major difference between this and House Bill 4437 that I mentioned earlier that was like yuck is that in 2611, I'm just going to call it the Senate bill from now on, is it proposed legalization for illegal immigrants, that they would allow illegal immigrants who had been in the country for more than 5 years, which was 7 million at the time estimated, to apply for citizenship by paying fines and back taxes. So like if you had a big cash flow, you can influx it into the stuff that you would owe the country, and you could basically pay a certain amount of money and you become a citizen, or you would at least be eligible to start the process. And then illegal immigrants had only been in the country for 2 to 5 years, which is 3 million. They would be allowed to stay without fear of deportation, but after 3 years they would have to leave the U.S. and could apply for citizenship abroad. So basically you're allowed to stay, but you got to go in 3 years from now. But the people that were in the country for a long time, they were, you're just in, you get to stay. And then people under 2 years would be required to return to their original nations. And so roughly 10 million illegal immigrants would be eligible to become citizens in that bill. This is a compromise. There's no way Republicans now would like that. But this bill got pretty strong bipartisan support, and they were thinking that the fines would be roughly $2,000. But the bill also introduced H-2C visas, which would be a blue card, they call it. This allowed employers to bring outside workers for up to 6 years in. This is increasing the number of people coming in for work all over. We're talking highly educated, highly skilled workforces. And then this bill also proposed 370 miles of fencing. And that's what everybody's talking about, saying that this bill supported the fencing and border security. Well, the House bill proposed 700 miles of fencing, but fencing here, it specifically says fencing, and so fencing and I guess obstructions or border sections. Like it doesn't specifically say a wall. So what they're talking about is things that are relatively low in installation costs, and some of the more difficult things, putting concrete and really heavy walls up, but they don't really talk too much about expanded role for law enforcement, saying basically that everything should be basically interior enforcement. And because the House bill, that one 4437 says like there needs to be a huge force that's added to it. Once again, there's a weird thing in this that was allowed, that this Inhofe, if you know the guy, he's the guy that brought the snowball into Congress because he's an idiot. Basically debating climate change because he had a snowball, which is just a terrible argument anyways. So that guy wanted to make English the national language, and he stuck that thing in here. And they talk about when they stuff bills with other things just that they could possibly happen to make English national language. And this was a compromise that Democrats had to be like, well, can we get this this major bill passed? And they overlooked it. I wouldn't have. I don't think that's something that the United States should do, is pick a language like that. But also in this bill was an increase for H-1B work visas, which is insanely important as far as getting high quality workers into the U.S. and keeping high educated kids who get a degree in the U.S. and allowing them to work in the U.S. This would go from 65,000 up to 115, then a 20% increase year on year. We've been decreasing these numbers. We've been making the people who have these educations, who come into this country and start businesses and increase our intelligence quotient, they've been going down. We've been losing. It's called a brain drain. We've been losing the people who have the ability to innovate in the most advanced industries in the country. So we're losing our ability to be the leader. And this bill in 2006 would have supported growing that sector. But people who don't like immigrants or that are coming into the country have a problem with that. And so there's a bunch of other things. Another thing, just the U.S. couldn't build anything without consulting Mexican officials, and so there had to be something back and forth. And this is very similar to a Immigration Reform Control Act in 1986. So they've been trying to do these immigration reform bills for a long time. And this one, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff in here that there's a fencing increasing and other border structure safety that Republicans would support, but they would not support a path to citizenship. They would not support increasing work visas, and they probably would not support the U.S. having to work with Mexico in order to build something. Like these are that's a compromise. That's it works both ways. The way that the current thing is set up right now with Trump is that he says, I have to have mine or I refuse. And just recently he said that he's okay with not getting what he wanted, just getting the government open again, and then he'll start his negotiations. So that was a big deal.
Yeah, he essentially caved, even though everybody says he didn't cave, but he really did cave. He caved all over the place, like he really did. And I'll be honest. I'm kind of sick of the back and forth. I do believe that there should be a stance. I am very surprised Pelosi took as strong of a stance as she did. I'm a little worried that they're going to give in too much here, And you're right. That's the ideology is. This has come up before. The difference is that if you and I were negotiating, right, and I was like, hey, I've got this, I don't know, I got a motorcycle I want to sell you, and you're like, oh, I really want that motorcycle, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of one of a kind, blah blah blah. It comes with some, the deal is though, Hannah, you gotta make sure that you take 3 kids on a ride every week, and you're like, yeah, screw it, don't want your motorcycle. Yeah. And you're like, okay, hey, fine. That's no big deal. We'll move on. Then you come around and say, no, I want your motorcycle. And guess what? You're going to give it to me now. And we're like, no, I'm not going to give you my motorcycle. And you're like, yes, you are. I might give those 3 kids a ride now. How about that? How about I concede with you? And like, no. You do understand the moments past here, right? Like, let's talk about whether that was even a good negotiation to begin with, right? And that's the idea here is Trump did this, and then now we're kind of back to the drawing board. And we could claim all we want that Republicans and Democrats, could have done something before the shutdown. And that's a fact, right? And they didn't do anything. And I don't understand.
Oh, they tried. So the Republicans had a open till February bill, and they thought Trump was going to pass it, and they were just like, we'll keep the government open. And then Trump got slammed by the people who think are more important than the people in the Senate, the people on Fox News. That's what it did. And they called him a coward, and they called him out, and basically he had to do what his base wanted, and that's his base, a very small select group of people who work for Fox News. And that was the big thing. Like but what this is to me, this is a great example of the Trump negotiation tactic, the idea of being a great deal maker. His idea of being a great deal maker is a guy. They like to call him the whale on at a poker table. He's a guy with more money than anybody else on the table, and he will just, if you go all in, he'll call your bet, and then he'll basically bluff you. Or if you basically bid your money, he'll bet everything that you have on your table. And he said, what are you going to do about it? You think you got it? You think you can beat me? Like he can afford to lose the maximum amount that you could possibly risk. And so by having more, he basically slams you with the fact that he has more, and he'll get you to back down, and you'll give in to his demands. And that has worked in his capitalistic endeavors all these years, basically just scaring people and threatening them with the little bit that they have, like contractors, real estate agents, whatever. And that's how you win when you're in a world like that. But in government, in law, even having control of all 3 branches of government, you still can't do that. It's too nuanced for that. It's too, I want something, you got to give me something. You have to find compromise. So you can't do that, that binary, I want to win, everyone else has to lose. It doesn't work. And he found that out without question in this endeavor. And now, so he eventually gave in. He said, okay, we can just keep the government open, and I can keep my, my conservative base who probably work for the government happy, and we'll negotiate now. And so they're going to start doing a real negotiation, and we'll see if they can find any kind of way to do immigration reform. But there's going to be some wins for the Democrats now. There's no way around that. There's no way to not have some wins there. And so, like, some of these things in the past, so like in the House bill for Republicans 6061, this is the Secure Fence Act that Bush passed. This was them. This is the Democrats who were in charge of the Senate commiserating or compromising with the Republicans in the House and with President Bush, basically saying, okay, listen, we will support strengthening the border, strengthening that, but only that. And so this bill was very clean. It was very sparse, and it was small. Angela Kelly, who in 2006 was a legislative director for the National Immigration Forum, told the Boston Globe it was hard to vote against it because who is going to vote against a secure fence? And it was benign compared to what was out there, which was that House bill I mentioned, 4437, which is like string up heads along the border. We want ourselves some Mongol pride. Like this, this was a smart decision on the Democrats to secure the country to their, to some kind of small compromise. And then what they did, though, is in 2006, Arlen Specter introduced another bill, S-744, and this never even made it out of committee until 2013. But he introduced it in 2006, and this was basically what the Democrats put out after they had agreed to the secure fence bill. Like, okay, we're agreeing to the secure fence bill, but we want to do immigration and they called it the Border Security, Economic Opportunity, and Immigration Modernization Act of 2013. And this was a Schumer and Sanders vote because Clinton, Obama were out at that point. So this is the one that everyone says Sanders voted for. And this one in here does have border security, but it also has incredibly, strong talent-based immigration reforms, which is exactly what the Republicans have been saying. They want to remove that family thing and bring in talent-based stuff where what can you do? What do you have to offer? Are you a doctor? Are you educated? Do you have degrees? Republicans love that, but they would not vote for that because this was, Democratic sponsored and Obama was the president, and they would not hand Obama a win in immigration reform. They also had a thing in here to prevent H-1B visa abuse. The Republicans have been running on that. That was part of Trump's campaign. They wanted to repeal the diversity visa lottery in favor of prospective illegal immigrants who are legal immigrants who are already in the United States. The Republicans wanted to remove that lottery, the visa lottery, and they've been saying that that's how these killers come into the United States and kill. All of this stuff, it's all in the article that we have at CellarDoorSkeptics.com. And this is basically a great immigration bill that was comprehensive, and Republicans would have loved it if maybe there was a Republican president at the time. And so this is the kind of stuff that you need to know. It's like you can say Bernie Sanders voted for a wall. That's great. But you also need to know what's in the bill, because in the Senate, this passed by a 68-32 margin. There were some Republicans that voted for it. It was not even considered by John Boehner in the House. They wouldn't even look at it. So it died in Congress.
Yeah. And some of it's because of pride, right?
Strategy.
And some of it's a strategy. So it's no longer about what's good for the American people.
No.
It's about what's good for your party. And that's... Yes. I agree with you. That's the sad, and I won't say Democrats don't play that game too. Oh
no, this entire article is me saying the Democrats have played this game in the past.
Yeah,
and the Republicans, the same. Like, this is not about the benefit of the country, like you said. This is about strategy and partisanship, and it's frustrating as hell.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem. Is we should be looking at those that play that game, and Bernie Sanders is now coming up again in the media, right? Because there's rumors he's going to run for president. I don't agree with it. I don't think he should, but
he will. I guarantee it. The reason being is because there's too many people that would support it.
Yep, a lot of people want that. Blah blah blah. Right? It is what it is. The deal becomes, though, is now people want to bring up, he voted for a wall, but he also voted for a lot of other things. And the idea here is as progressive as I am, at some point you do have to cross the conversation, and you have to move across the aisle, is what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah,
I don't agree with that bill.
You can win some of your far left ideas with a couple little things to the right.
Yes. I don't agree with that bill and what it was going to do, but there was more positive things in there than there was negative, in fairness.
I agree.
It was still too conservative for me, but
I know.
Was it something that I can comprehensively say is better than what we're at now? And the funny thing is you would think, why wouldn't Trump propose this now to some extent? Why wouldn't he take this and say, okay, I'm going to give this back to you. We rejected it. The Republicans rejected it. I wasn't part of that mantra. Here's the exact same bill. Why don't we just pass this? And I think he would get a lot farther along than just trying to give them portions of this law back, Well,
he could slap his big, stupid red letter name on it. Just put your big dumb name on there, and we'll even give it to you. You just take the whole text and say, "I, Trump, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be great." And you know what? We'll put your dumb name in history, and we'll say Donald Trump passed this dumb law. And you know what? It'll make a lot of people's lives great. It'll make a whole bunch of benefits to society. It'll increase, the people that we need in this country to help us grow and be, part of the new next generation global workforce. And we can let Trump have that because he's going to die soon because he's like 3,000 years old, whatever. Just in the end, like I'm willing to let him have his big dumb name on something if it allows me and a lot of the people in this country to welcome in some of the hardest working people that will ever come anywhere near the workforce that we have. And so this is the place that I would love to see some compromise, and I'm willing to give Trump a win. And I mean, I don't think it would affect it enough that he would be able to be reelected in 2020.
You never know, though. You never know. But I agree with you. It's time.
That's scary.
It's time to keep the government back open. There's too many other people at risk here of ruining and going farther into financial ruin because of this. So
recession.
Yep. I'm not gonna say I want the wall. And the funny thing is that I actually had this debate on my Facebook page, I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I posted something, and a Republican, Trump supporter, not just a Republican, an actual, they worked for the Trump campaign, came on and they're like, well, would you support the wall if Mexico paid for it? And I said, to be honest with you, if it meant shutting the government down versus Mexico paying for a wall, fine, whatever. You know what? Because in the long run, no, I think it's ridiculous. I would never support this. But if it doesn't come out of our pockets, Mexico's willing to pay for it, and it would keep the government open, I think that's the lesser of two evils. I'm not given that choice, though. That money's coming out of our pockets. And, people want to, we talked about abortion earlier, and people were like, well, Planned Parenthood gets money. And I'm like, yeah, guess what? The war machine gets 70 times what, Trump wants for this stupid
even
wall.
More than that.
Yeah. And so all I'm saying is, for Christ's sake, at this current time, if you want that money, defund some of those, F-150, 51s or whatever the heck the airplane that they have now is.
Oh, that F-35 was that $1 billion airplane, I think it was. Yeah, I can't remember. So
whatever it is, stop those, and you can you would be able to fund a wall, and this wouldn't even be a conversation. All you have to do is say, I'm diverting funds from here to do this. Yeah, I don't agree with it. I don't want to give you those funds, but what else are we going to do? We can't continue to have the government shut down, and why is this an acceptable thing? And people have said, well, why are senators getting paid? Well, they shouldn't be. Their health care should be shut off. They should be stopped getting money instantaneously. Now, that probably won't bankrupt them, but it would send a message.
Well, it could some of the young ones that are coming in, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's been actively talking about until she gets her first paycheck, she can't afford to live in D.C. because she has to have a place in New York with her constituents and in D.C. where she spends most of her time. And so there's that duality there. But one of the other things they were saying is that I think it was it Rupert Murdoch? I think it might have been Rupert Murdoch. One of the major billionaires, he basically said that if you wanted to guarantee that the budget would get solved every year, and then we would reduce the deficit and reduce spending, is that if you directly tied the I guess the interest rates and some of the things that the people at the top get to having the budgets balanced and all that kind of stuff, it would be done the next year. Like essentially, if you threaten the pocketbooks of the richest people in this country, that they would lose the things that they make most of their money on when it comes to investments and returns on their investments and in corporate law, if that was restricted or if that was threatened at all, with needing the budget to be balanced, some of that, like it would happen instantly, because it's possible. You just have people fighting over it, and they make more money because they're fighting over it.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, man.
So quick saves.
Quick saves. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we close the show out, we do a segment called Quick Save segment 90% of the time. Most of the time. Every once in a while I forget. Every once in a while I get drunk enough I forget, but I try to remember every week.
Yeah, it's basically the whole idea is like quick save, something that you do in a week. So like when you're playing a video game and you see something and you're like, I don't know what's going to happen here, quick save. Or you hear that ominous music where a boss is coming in and you're like, I probably need to quick save. Or you see some guy who's walking up to you for no real reason, you quick save because he might just kill you. And my concept on that was that we should, when you walk through your, the internet, when you're rolling through the internet at some point, or even just life in general, you should be able to be just like, I want to save that for something for interesting later. And I came across one, and mine is really simple. It's just a stand-up bit. And I saw it basically someone says like, this guy has some of we got the explicit tag on, so Chris will swear. This guy, he basically has one of his first language. It's obviously not English, and so he's learning English, and he's talking about all the different ways that people say shit, and it's very Carlin-esque. It's very, very well done. He's like, well, if someone says they're the shit, it means they're cool and they're interesting. But if someone is a shit, it means they're an asshole. It means they're a jerk.
Yeah, you're a little shit.
Yes, and it says if you it depends on what you put in front of it. If someone smells like shit, and if he smells like, or if it's like looks like shit, like all of these things have different ways. And I can't do the guy justice because I'm not going to do his bit for him. We're including the link in here, and he's an amateur. This is a small budget thing. This is just, a bit that he did, and he's getting a little bit of recognition, and it went sort of viral, and it's awesome. It's really good. So check it out. This guy doing the best Carlin-esque manipulations of the word shit that I've ever seen, and it's worth 3 minutes of your life.
My quick save of the week was a Loudwire article announcing a anniversary tour for Static X. So for the fans of the show, if you've listened to us for over 2 years, we did a show where we talked about the death of Wayne Static, right? And Static X is essentially local to Michigan. I did not know them. No.
Yeah.
Did they play at some Carnival of Chaos way back in the day? Yes.
Yeah. Wayne was from Otsego, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it was. Because there's a song in Wisconsin Death Trip called Otsego.
Yes. And I'll be honest, they are one of my favorite bands, even nowadays. And weirdly enough, there is a Batman animated series. God, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was a future Batman animated series where it's like future Batman. And Static X does a couple of the songs for the soundtrack for that show. But anyway, so Static X has kind of been a staple in my life, along with Cold Chamber. They're just bands that I've loved from when I was in high school. And Wayne died basically of a drug overdose. We're not going to get into. God, this show could be another 4 hours.
I heard it was heart failure. But did they actually get it more specific on it?
Yes. It's due to drugs.
Okay. It says that Static X did Batman Beyond theme song.
There you go. Batman Beyond. Which is a great kids cartoon if you have kids that like Batman, by the way.
Yeah,
anyway.
American, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm excited because they're going to do a reunion tour, obviously without Wayne, because you can't bring people back from the dead. It's not like Frankenstein's monster. They don't know who's going to actually do the vocals. They're keeping that secret for now. But they're reuniting the original lineup for Static X minus Wayne. Devil Driver is going to co-headline that. And for anybody listening to the show, Devil Driver is probably my second favorite band, maybe second to third favorite band of all time, right?
And that's where the Coal Chamber.
Love them.
That's where the Coal Chamber reference comes in a minute ago. Des Fafara used to sing for Coal Chamber, so
yes,
just bringing everyone up to speed.
And they're also going to bring Dope back. And I've seen Dope like 11 times, right? And I have not seen Dope in probably 5 to 6 years. It's just been that long since I've seen them.
The last time I saw Dope was at the Orbit Room in Grand Rapids, and they sang Right Round. He's like, you guys want to hear the dumbest song ever recorded?
Yeah.
We did a cover of the dumbest song ever recorded, and they sang Right Round. You bring me right round, baby, right round. Like, but it was like metal version. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was.
Remember
so
when they used to play with Mushroom Head? Remember Mushroom Head? You remember Mushroom Head? God,
they're still around. Yeah, Ohio. That was Ohio. Toledo or Cleveland, whatever those boys were from. Yeah, because I have a bunch of friends in Detroit that are like Mushroom Head aficionados, and that lineup has changed like so many times over the years. But yeah, they're still doing the same thing. Like Static X is coming through. They're bringing a bunch of 90s to early 2000s nostalgia, and even Devil Driver, which is still releasing albums. They just released an album of like country. Is it country western covers?
Yeah, essentially. And but they're not. They don't sound country. You would not know a country song unless you knew the original song.
That's one of the things I was like, because like part of loving a cover is knowing the original song and like hearing like a new version of an original song. So like I don't know any of these country songs, so it's like I can't really relate. But like that band, that album, and everything's gonna be sweet there. I don't know what they're gonna be doing because I saw the picture and it looked like they had like a Wayne Static zombie looking dude, and I was like, are they gonna have like a hologram or something?
Well, I don't know. They are literally not releasing who's going to do the vocals, and they said the reason they said this is because the idea is to commemorate Wayne's legacy, which is Static X, and Wayne's idea was not me. His idea was the band, and I know there was some turmoil towards the end. I get that. A lot of that was due to large amounts of drug use. Ironically enough, it was. But anyway, so the idea is how do we talk about the authenticity? How do we talk about what Static X was and what it meant to a generation? We could talk about Hatebreed. Every time Hatebreed comes around, I see Hatebreed because again, that's music from my my teens that empowered me and made me feel that the world was a little bit better because other people hated it as much as I did.
Man, I had a friend of mine ruin Hatebreed for me. I still love them, but like there's just a little tiny thing that always bugged me on it. It's like neo-Nazis and people loved Hatebreed.
Do. It's bad.
And it frustrates the shit out of me. Devil Driver has the same problem. One of the DVDs they released with their albums, he does stopped the show because there was a dude in the front row that was doing like Nazi salutes. He's like, "You do that again, man! I'm kicking you the hell out of my. You don't do that crap." So the bands themselves, they fight against this stuff. So like a lot of the music in here. So if anyone that's listening to this isn't like a heavy metal fan, you do see that kind of crap. We do see that white nationalism. We do see that Nazism showing up, but we're all, in most cases, fighting against it. The bands themselves don't want to be associated with it at all. And so, like, that's something that if you are not part of the community and you see something like that, like, it's not what we're looking for. It's people appropriating really what is usually really positive or really, like, pro-personal, strength messaging. And they're misappropriating it for horrible things. So like Hatebreed is a great example. Like a lot of their music is like, now is the time for me to rise to my feet. Like those kinds of moments are like incredibly apathetic, but like you can't separate it from some of the stuff that like the people that come to the shows and ruin it. Like that. When a friend of mine told me about that, and he's like, dude, it sounds like the white nationalism, and I was like, don't ever say that again because that doesn't even remotely sound like what I heard, and now I can never not get that out of my head. I'm so mad.
Yeah, it's kind of like a throwback to the Slayer thing, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, if you're interested in seeing Static X without Wayne, they are coming to Grand Rapids and Detroit this year. So I'll be there. I'm debating attending both shows because I do like late 90s death metal, not Limp Bizkit, thank you.
That's not death metal, though.
Yeah.
That was like MTV metal, like
garbage.
Korn. Yeah, it was like TRL metal. I remember when like Carson Daly used to have a thing called the Korn spot because Korn was just on the top 10 every day.
Yep.
Like, I will say it's cool that rock was kind of popular then, but
it's better that Static X is awesome. Anyway, thank you all for joining us tonight. We'll be back next week with an amazing interview with Everyone's Agnostic podcast, along with Hannah's and I commentary on God Only Knows. So thank you all. Have a great night, and we'll be back next week with another amazing Cellar Door Skeptics.
You've been listening to a presentation of Cellar Door Skeptics. Check us out on Spreaker. CellarDoorSkeptics.com.
If you'd like to join the ranks of Patreons and sponsor the show, head over to patreon.com/Cellar Door Skeptics. For less than a 20-ounce soda or an energy drink each week, you can help sponsor us, the hosts, and our charity of choice. Patreon helps Cellar Door Skeptics create better content, become better activists, and it's going to help you stay healthier by drinking one less soda or one less energy drink each week. Click the link in the notes of the show to sponsor us today because we bring the discussion with the sources.